All right, more 49ers discussion. I know the Warriors are playing right now. They're playing Milwaukee. My former college buddy, Brooke Lopez, he's still in the league, still playing for the Bucks. So I know that's on. I know people are probably doing their own thing. It's a Wednesday night. We're moving into the middle of that off season. It's going to get a bit more exciting next week when free agency officially opens. I know I've already done a couple shows today, but wanted to check in with you before the off-season travels start. We got a fun destination tomorrow. More content coming from there. So lunch with Lombardi, all that stuff is going to return. But we've got to talk about the 49ers' biggest off-season key. I think it's that linebacker level because, so much of the talk, and I know Mike put Nick Sorensen on the thumbnail, so much of the talk has been about tying rush and coverage together. Well, Steve Wilkes obviously didn't do that well enough to the 49ers' liking. And they're really hoping that Sorensen is able to bring that pass rush, tie it to the coverage. Defense can hum again. His defense was the number 12 defense in the league last season. They were number 1 in 2022. From 1 to 12, that's not a good trajectory. The 49ers need to be better. So they need to get this back into the top 5 in 2024. And I think it starts with the linebackers, not just for schematic reasons, but also because there can be a personnel deficiency here. Dre Greenlaw tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl. We don't know which Dre Greenlaw is going to show up in 2024. We're not even sure if Dre Greenlaw is going to be ready for week 1 of 2024. It's still way too early to project that. So when I look at this, the Dre Greenlaw question is pivotal for the 49ers. Free agency and the tampering window begins on Monday. The question is, are they going to sign a veteran? They drafted 2 guys last year, D. Winters and Jalen Graham. Winters got about 62 snaps. Jalen Graham hasn't played defense yet. He's only played special teams. The 49ers really want their draft investments to work out at that linebacker position, because that's why they decided to fortify that room with depth last year, just in case Fred Warner or Dre Greenlaw were ever not available. But you also need 3 linebackers. And if you could see here in that linebacker room where the 49ers currently are from a depth chart perspective, their third guy would be D. Winters, and that's assuming Dre Greenlaw is ready to play. Dre Greenlaw is obviously shaded in pink because he's hurt right now. So I think the 49ers absolutely have to sign a linebacker. Quan Alexander is out there. We've talked about Azeez Al-Shire. That might be a little bit out of the 49ers price range. Azeez was a 3-down linebacker for the first time in his career, 1,000 snaps, all that for the Tennessee Titans. They only signed a year-long deal with him, so he's technically going to be available. That officially is going to happen on Wednesday. So the 49ers can sign him a week from today. If he isn't re-signed by the Tennessee Titans before then, they could come to terms with Azeez Al-Shire if they want to bring him back on Monday when the legal tampering window opens. But I wouldn't, it's a matter of cost. And he played damn well for Tennessee as a 3-down linebacker for the first time this year. I would assume there are going to be teams interested in signing Azeez Al-Shire to be one of their top 2 linebackers. The 49ers can bring Azeez Al-Shire in to be linebacker 2.5. And by that, I mean, you don't know Dre Greenlaw's situation with the Achilles, but they can't bring him in to be linebacker 2 outright. So, and I don't know if their salary cap situation, given everybody else they have to pay. We've talked about the big fish free agents they might go after in some of these other videos. It just doesn't seem to me that they'll be able to outbid all teams for Azeez Al-Shire. Now, maybe he was part of the 49ers huddle during the divisional playoff game or before the divisional playoff game against the Packers. So maybe Azeez is somebody to be willing to take a discount for a Super Bowl type of year with the 49ers, but you can't count on that kind of stuff in the NFL. So D. Winters and Jalen Graham, there's a lot riding on these guys to not only provide the depth for Dre Greenlaw, but maybe also for one of them to emerge as the 49ers' third linebacker. I do not think that San Francisco can be quiet in free agency. We'll see what they think that Quan Alexander has left in the tank, because Quan, he's fought through injuries even after he left the 49ers. He's going to be back out there. We'll see if they do try to kick the tires on Azeez Al-Shire, try to use some nostalgia to get him back in. But I think that they absolutely have to get this linebacker situation right. And it's tricky in many ways because one of their top players, Dre Greenlaw, hurt himself in the last game of the preceding season. It's a miniature version of what we saw with Brock Purdy last year, right? He got hurt in the last game of the season. Then the 49ers were playing some musical chairs in the offseason. They were deciding how exactly they wanted to fortify their depth with the hope that Purdy would return full strength by week 1. But they had to play it safe as if he wouldn't return by week 1. So there might have been Trey Lance trade talk in April of last year, but there's no way they were going to trade Trey Lance in April. They were going to have to wait until Purdy came back in training camp, and there's a reason why they finally dealt Lance in that training camp window. It was at some point in August, right, that they traded Trey Lance to the Dallas Cowboys because they knew that they had the insulation they needed in the quarterback room with Brock Purdy returning and playing well at training camp, and with Sam Darnold also delivering well at training camp. They also had Brandon Allen last season. So similar situation here, the linebacker room. You've got to prove yourself as the depth behind Dre Greenlaw while the Dre Greenlaw question is addressed over the course of this offseason. I do not think this defense can get back into the top 5 without a good season from its linebackers. That is at the core of what the 49ers do. They line up wide, obviously in the wide 9 with their defensive linemen up front. It is up to the linebacker level to erase gaps and erase mistakes behind the linemen. The 49ers are not reading and reacting with their defensive linemen against the run. They are focused on penetrating so they can get after the passer. If you're focused on penetrating and you're not reading and reacting, you're not cutting off a lot of these runs into the gaps that aren't exactly aligned with where you're attacking as a D lineman. You are trusting the linebackers. That's literally their job description, backing the line. You are trusting the linebackers to flow and to cut off any semblance of run game that gets past the wide 9 front. You're counting on your linebackers to have sideline to sideline speed to be able to choke off perimeter run action, and also to be able to cover so many of these versatile weapons. So many teams are running the 49ers formula now. They're running adaptable skill position weapons. The linebackers are going to have to cover some of those guys. So Warner is great. Greenlaw obviously was great before the injury. We'll see how he recovers. We don't have an inclination of which way this is going to go, except for the fact that the surgery did go well. So there's a lot of focus on D. Winters and Jalen Graham this offseason. So that's the 49ers thought. That's something to keep in mind here as free agency approaches on Monday. Tampering window then. Full thing opens up with a new league year on Wednesday. 49ers may have to load up at the linebacker position, but how much can they afford? I do think that this is the biggest key to return their defense to the top of the league.